Good evening, ladies, and welcome once again to the Single Mom Support Group. We're doing our live YouTube, Facebook crossover so I can have these videos available on my YouTube page, Suddenly a Single Parent, as well. I got my notes right here. Happy Friday night to you. It's a little after 7, but I won't go long just to make up for the time. Um, what I'm learning is that sometimes while you're teaching stuff, you have to go through it too. And so you have to make sure that you are not just teaching things you're not willing to, um, and dealing with disappointment. That's like present disappointment and past disappointments, different types of disappointments. Um, that's what's going on with me. If you recall, last week we started our series on dealing with disappointment. And the first thing we did was define disappointment. And we defined it from my good friend Merriam Webster and several others as unhappiness from the failure of something hoped for or expected to happen, or someone or something that fails to satisfy hopes or expectations. Um, that was the definition that was found. And what we talked about were the way we're going to break up this series so that it looks like three different, bite-sized pieces that we could put swallow. And the first part, acknowledge and affirm. Second, erase and replace, and then finally reconcile and resist. And so each section broken up into maybe two parts or so. And we begin our first section with, and so we began with the acknowledgement part in that we made our lists, we acknowledged the issues that caused the disappointments. I don't know, as you went through your week, maybe there were other things that happened that hopefully some of the things that we talked about last week you were able to say, okay, I am disappointed in this. I am having to, write this down or write this list or add list. So hopefully we're going to acknowledge the issues that caused the disappointment. And then we acknowledge how those situations made us feel. So not trying to justify, not trying to minimize or to make excuses for the feelings, but just stating how I felt about the situation. When I use the example that I wrote that when I was, this isn't a true example, but in third grade, Miss Teacher chose Susie Q to be the line leader instead of me, and it made me feel unwanted. It made me feel rejected. Everybody always chose Susie Q. So something like that. In my personal example, it was being in the car accident, getting hit. It was all of a sudden, it made me feel unprotected. It made me feel damaged. It made me feel I was like I was personally wounded, like it was a personal attack, violated. So those are the things that we're talking about. And again, not trying to justify our feelings. We don't have to make excuses for them. This is how I felt. This is what it felt like to me. And we learned that some of the lists are going to be longer than others. If you have a long list or a short list, it doesn't matter. It's your list, and that's okay. And then finally, we wrapped it up. Oh, we learned also that we might have to put ourselves on the list for our own disappointments, our own, man, I just made a bad decision throughout that. I made bad decisions throughout that whole ordeal, or, I wasn't wise. And I disappointed myself by disappointing people that I care about. So, and then finally, we wrapped it up by acknowledging that some of us need to put God on the list. And I shared a personal story about how, I was disappointed with God and not wanting to acknowledge it because of my perspective of God. And then when I finally did, I could have a good conversation with God about those disappointments, about how I felt. And about how our relationship could go and grow from there. So um, hopefully, what we have accomplished over this past week is an honest look into ourselves. You got to take an honest look at yourself about how you're feeling about something. Maybe you realize that why you've been behaving a certain way towards a certain person, that you told yourself, I'm cool with them. It's all good. But you feel that scratchiness on the inside, or why you've been avoiding speaking with someone that you used to enjoy speaking with. You told yourself everything is cool. I'll just get back to them later, whatever, I'm busy. But you're getting more and more comfortable with putting that person off just because you don't want to deal with the situation. So hopefully that gave you some insight. Well, now I know that I'm dealing with disappointment. That person disappointed me, or that situation we were involved in disappointed me in some way. So honesty was the goal in the first part of acknowledge and affirming. And then today is part 2, and we've got to the affirming part. So as humans, we go through things, and people looking from the outside, looking in, it seems like sometimes they have some sort of clock or ruler or some kind of unknown, unseen guidebook that tells everyone on the outside of your situation, okay, this is how long she gets to feel this way, or this is how long they get to feel that way. And then you cut them off. Doesn't matter what it looks like. So they presume that they know what we've been through and how long we should have feelings about it, right? Do you know somebody like that? So then if our feelings surpass the expected timeline or guidebook rule of required grieving or motion time, then we're made to feel like we're being unreasonable, or we're just super sensitive, or sometimes we're just wrong. We're out of order for feeling like that, or feeling that way, or still feeling that way. And then we're made to feel like we're the bad guys because of our response to being hurt. You were hurt. You were hurt by somebody you care about. And sometimes that takes time. All the time it takes time. Who just bounces back like that? That's phony. So let's go into our affirming part with some understanding. Okay, first we're going to understand this. How long you grieve over the disappointment is generally your business, right? There's no time limit on grieving. No one gets to tell you how long you grieve or mourn for the loss of anything. You know yourself best, and you know what you need to be better. And with that said, though, there are friends, close friends, inner circle friends that are going to call you out when it looks like your grieving time, your mourning time is taking a downward spiral, because that can happen as well. Okay. You can't throw yourself in a hole and cover it up and then just die along with, the relationship or the situation or the loss or whatever it is, just because you feel like dying. You are alive. And as long as you are on this side of the earth, and as long as you are breathing, there's life to be lived. Okay. And even if it goes by slowly, even if your life looks like, this morning I got up. That was all I could do. That was all I could manage. But I did it, so I win. One step at a time. Even if you do that, it's a win. It's a good thing. So small victories, but don't allow other people to put pressure on you to get over something in their timeline, because that's not fair to you. And then the other thing that we need to understand as we're going through this is that how you grieve, or how you grieve. The first one was how long you grieve, but this one is how you grieve. How you grieve or deal with disappointment does not necessarily look like how others are grieving or dealing with disappointment. It's not gonna, there's no cookie cutter process, no cookie cutter shape, no cookie cutter timeline. There's nothing. Everything, like every person, it's unique to you. There's going to be all kinds of emotions, or there's going to be one dominant emotion. Whatever it is, that's okay. And that right there is the perfect segue into our affirming section, our affirming points section. Affirming can also be called like validating or validation points. And so the first thing we're going to do, and I'm checking my timer because I don't want to keep going over. Number one, first point in affirming points. Affirm your feelings surrounding the event or the situation that disappointed you. You feel how you feel. Your feelings are legitimate. Absolutely. And again, there may be many feelings or just one or two dominant feelings. Allow yourself to feel and don't cut off your emotions. That's how people explode. That's how innocent people end up getting hurt in the wake of somebody's explosion who didn't know how to deal or master or manage their emotions, even acknowledge them. That's where that misplaced anger comes in, where somebody's just snapping at everybody because they're angry at a particular thing and they won't say what it is or acknowledge it. So I'm just going to be mad at everybody, or I'm always crying. Everything makes me cry. So that's the first point. Point number two, say out loud how the disappointment made you feel. Now, last week I shared why it's important to talk out loud. Sometimes you have to just hear it. Sometimes you got to hear yourself, tell yourself the truth. Okay, ear gates, eye gates. There's something about hearing yourself speak the truth that can be therapeutic. Okay, Proverbs 18:14 says that the spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but who can bear a wounded spirit? When you're wounded and hurt on the inside, it's different than a physical wound. I mean, a physical wound you can see. You can see if it's healing. You can see if I need to go to the doctor. You can see if it's getting better. I can see that it's scarring or there's no scar and it's all gone. You can see that. But we can't see those inside wounds. We can't see those inside scars, but there are things that we can do and steps that we can take when we acknowledge there's been hurt here. There's been woundedness here. And so now I have to take healing steps to get better. And the first thing is to say, hey, I've been hurt. Somebody hurt me. And when you open your mouth to be honest and declare how you really feel, you're affirming the legitimacy of your feelings. We aren't going to minimize our feelings. We aren't going to pretend like we don't have them. And we don't have to have someone else's approval of our feelings. We don't need approval from anybody to feel the way we feel. You affirm your feelings and you approve them. Like this message, there's a bug around here that's bugging me. I am Rabora Jeffries and I approve my feelings. You know, like I approve this message. You feel what you feel, and it's okay. And then you work on, okay, if this is a negative feeling, then I need to learn how to work it through, work it out, and start walking and healing from it. Okay. And then finally, point number 3. I've only got 3 points. Be specific as you're affirming your different disappointment situations. Be specific with the events and how they made you feel. If they were separate situations, and what you might find as you're doing this is that the feeling, even in different situations, the feeling was the same. Like there's a connection. Like this person disappointed me in this way and it made me feel rejected. And then this person disappointed me in this way and I also felt rejected there. And then this person did something else and I felt rejected. So now you're seeing a pattern. Rejection is what is the outcome of these different situations. But now you're understanding I have an issue with rejection. I'm either afraid of it or I'm getting a lot of it, and what's going on. Then that's something that you can start looking at. It's not wrong to feel what you're feeling, but a lot of times in acknowledging your feelings, there are clues to who you are and why you behave in certain ways. Being rejected causes people to feel a certain way or expect a certain thing. So look for the connecting dots, look for clues. Okay. So whether it's an ex-friend, and I did write this, I do want to mention this before my time is up and I'm just checking. It might be weird for you at first talking to yourself out loud when you're acknowledging and affirming all these things and no one else is there. But if that's the worst that you feel is a little weird when nobody else is around, then what else do you have to lose? Okay, nobody can see you. Nobody's, listening except for you. You're the most important person that needs to hear you is right there, and that's you. So whether it's an ex-friend, an ex-partner, yourself, or God, you're still going to affirm your feelings. Okay. Just be mindful that God does speak and God talks back and he may speak to you about your issue with him. But that's not something that you have to be afraid of because God's every motivation, his every speech and his every action is founded in love. And if you hear something angry back as you're talking to God and you're acknowledging your feelings and your disappointment with God, and you hear something angry, that's not God. Okay, that might be another spiritual issue that you have to deal with if you're hearing a voice and it's an angry voice, because that's not God. God is always love, all the time love. Okay. And that's where we're going to end tonight. That's all my notes on my little tablet here. I'm not going to leave you hanging. We're going to do something with all of these things that we're acknowledging and affirming. Next week, we're talking about erasing and replacing. And we're going to bring our list and we're going to collect all the baggage that we've brought up and we're going to unpack it. So join me here next Friday. I will be here and we're going to keep going with the next step, erase and replace. And I am very, very glad. See, I told you I wasn't going to go long tonight just because I started late. I'm very, very excited to join you every Friday night. I love our time together. I wish I could share the new stuff that came up that has disappointed me. But because this is a more public forum, that is a conversation for the closed group videos. So unfortunately, I'm not going to share that, but I've got keys to deal with it. And we'll walk through it together. So just because I'm not saying it out loud doesn't mean I'm not going to out loud on camera. Doesn't mean I'm not going to say it out loud and deal with it and go from there. So I've added another issue. If you add another disappointment, it's okay. Some stuff will come up and that's all right. And we handle it, get up from it, get over it, and get on with it. That's what we do. That's how we do. I used to tell my kids, we're Jeffries. When we feel like we can't fight anymore, that's when we fight some more. So keep fighting and fight until Friday. So I will see you next Friday. I gotta get my little mouse here and in the stream, and I will see you. All this bug is ridiculous, but I will see you, ladies, here again, 7 o'clock next Friday. Bye bye.